I'm live. I don't know if anyone's going to watch this. I don't even know how to turn YouTube if I have anyone viewing. If you're viewing, you can maybe click a like or something. I'll see it pop up. If you want to subscribe to my channel, there's a button down there somewhere. I'm sure everyone knows how YouTube works by now. So let's get right into it. The subject of this that I shared over on my Facebook page. What is the difference between God and a scientist? Now, this is an original. I have nothing original. A friend of mine, Greg, told me the joke. I got one person watching. Hi. A friend of mine told me a joke, and he used the word, but I've changed it. So what's the difference between God and a scientist? God doesn't claim to be a scientist. When Greg told it to me originally, it was doctor. The inference being obviously that doctors, scientists do claim to be God. We've certainly seen that if you're anyone living in the world today. You know, the high priests of science go up to their pulpit and they preach. They preach truth, 100% truth. And then shortly thereafter, we find out they were wrong. The high priests of science came out in March and told us that in Canada, country where I live, that 200,000 Canadians were going to be dying of COVID in the first year. And they were wrong, but science is wrong more often than it is right. Now, when I posted it to Facebook, I said I'm going to be doing a YouTube live video. One of my friends, Ian, hit me with, I'd already anticipated someone would say it. I told the joke a couple times during the past week, and he came up with one is real. The inference being, of course, that science is real and God is not in my world. And on top of that, science isn't really even a noun. I mean, it is, but science is a process of evolving proof. It evolves over time. God doesn't evolve. God is. He is that he is. And Christians will know, even non-Christians will know the song, he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got all of creation in his hands. That's a Christian belief. That we can't even wrap our minds around it. It's interesting. I'll sermonize a bit because it's Sunday and I couldn't go to church today. Not allowed. But even if you've just seen the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston, you'll remember the scene where Moses goes before the burning bush and he is given charge. He's told by God to go and say unto Pharaoh, let my people go. And Moses asks a very human question. He wants a name. We name everything in this world. Plate, cup. Names are important. In the Old Testament, Adam, first means first man. Lots of names in the Bible have a meaning. You can go into the New Testament. Zacchaeus means blameless or without blame. Names are important. So by putting a name onto God, it puts God into a box, and you cannot put God into a box. And so God simply replies, I am that I am. I exist. Ian's opinion notwithstanding. And therein lies, science. I mean, what is science? Science, I just did a quick Google just to see, and there are four what are considered, at least as Google, four main branches of science. There's mathematics, biology, physical sciences, and social sciences. And then even within each one of those groups, there are myriad of subcategories, probably hundreds. if you look at something as simple as biology, well, there's human biology, animal biology, and animals can be broken down into mammals, amphibians, reptiles, avian, what, and this was all created. I know some people think it happened by accident. There was just, matter floating around in the universe for aeons and aeons, and then some cosmic chance created the first life, and then it evolved by luck. And that, this incredibly complex, ordered world, that it's just random luck. My intellect can't accept that. Now, do I have a scientific mind? I'll leave you to judge, or to discern, better word. I took some undergraduate science courses, university level, but I have no degrees in any science. I took some psychology, took some environmental science, those types of things. But, science is so broad. And we mess things up. Human beings mess things up. Now, I go to a church now. The church I'm attending now, the church that I started attending in the summer, because it was the first church in my town to open up. And the pastor, I knew him. I've known him for a few years. We play tennis together. And I can guarantee you, you come into Glenn's church on any Sunday, you're going to hear the same thing. He's going to hold this up. That's my Oxford Annotated Study Bible. And he's going to say, get in the Word. Get in the Word. Because for adherents to the Christian faith, this is God's Word. It's authoritative, and it is sufficient to guide human understanding. Now, I recall one of the first sermons I heard Glenn deliver said something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the effect of, the sum total of everything you need to know is in here. And I remember at the time, raised an eyebrow. I was like, well, really, everything? Well, I'll tell you something, the understanding I've come to is that anything that I'm going to read, if I have this as the foundation, I'll understand everything else far better than if I read it without an understanding of what's in here. Now, I want to bring up an example, something that a lot of people know about, because there's been a viral video. I haven't seen it for a while, but it went out saw it being shared on Facebook and social media, and something that happened back starting in the 1800s. Yellowstone National Park, a place I visited back in 1978, I believe. It's in Wyoming. Beautiful, pristine, one of the most amazing ecosystems you could ever want to see. Waterfalls, geysers, pools. The landscape is just breathtaking. And but in the 1800s, humans, we know how to manage things better. And wolves were a problem in Yellowstone National Park. So the thought was, well, we'll get rid of the wolves. We'll exterminate the wolves. Prior to the creation of Yellowstone National Park, and for years afterwards, there were a lot of ranchers in the area, and wolves were attacking their livestock. So you got to get rid of the wolves. And that's what they did. They pretty much, by the 1920s, wolves had been completely extinct in Yellowstone National Park. And so great, the wolf problem has been solved. Human ingenuity. But it had ramifications that hadn't been foreseen. Firstly, the deer and elk, but primarily elk population exploded, as well as coyotes. Those were the two primary food sources for the wolf population. So now with elk, and primarily elk populations exploding, aspen and cottonwood trees, they started chomping down furiously on their growth. A little shoot would pop up and they'd chew it right down. And so a large deforestation took place. As a result of that grazing that the elks were doing, the biodiversity of Yellowstone started to change. The coyote population also exploded, and they just about eradicated the beaver from Yellowstone. So Yellowstone was, free of beavers. So rivers the erosion increased exponentially because now the rivers were growing. Why? They didn't have they didn't have the beavers creating the dams and the pools and the ponds. And so basically the biodiversity of Yellowstone went down exponentially. There are videos on this. Just go into YouTube, type Yellowstone wolves, and you'll find them. I mean, but then I think it was 1995, they reintroduced wolves. I think it was in from Hinton, Alberta, three packs of wolves were reintroduced at 3 different times. And the effects were immediate and pronounced over time, because the elk population went down. The elk behavior changed because now they were afraid, so they stopped grazing in the open grasslands as much. The growth in the grasslands increased, so birds started to come back that hadn't been there for years. The beaver population, beavers came back into the area, started building dams. It helped solidify the erosion of banks. Just the biodiversity exploded. And this is, we think we're such a smart species and that we can control every aspect by just fixating in on one particular aspect. We don't see the whole thing, and God does. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I mean, so right now we're living in a situation where people with their Facebook degrees and their Twitter accreditation in epidemiology, virology, are now convinced they know everything about how to control a virus. We've got these lockdown measures happening because, like the wolves, we just got to get rid of that virus. And so what do? Well, we got to keep people apart. So we've got to close down businesses, small businesses. We're going to close them down. So a bookstore, a small retailer, bar, restaurant, gym. So all these businesses are being shuttered, with the idea that this will keep people apart and there will be less chance for viral spread. Wonderful. But what happens when you throw somebody out of work? Now, I'm sure just about everyone knows someone who takes a great deal of pride and has built a certain degree of their identity around their job. And they will talk very proudly of their job. Someone who's a short order cook will be extremely proud of the fact that during a lunch rush, I served 150 people and I only had one complaint, or I had no complaints. Everything came out hot and tasty, and I did a great job. I'm going to go on Gordon Ramsay's show and get sworn at. People take a lot of pride in their work, and you take that away from them. And it's not just a few. Canada-wide, we're talking about millions. In the province of Ontario, hundreds of thousands of people have had their jobs taken away from them through no fault of their own. They showed up to work on time, they did their jobs, and now they're being told you're not allowed to go into work. And it's forcing some businesses to completely close. They can't make ends meet. It's destroyed people's lives. They've lost their entire life savings. They've lost homes. So you take away someone's job, that creates another problem. You sit there and say, here, have your $2,000 serve. But that doesn't do anything to ameliorate the psychological impact of being out of work. People become depressed when they're out of work. When you're depressed, the chances that you're going to fall into alcohol or substance abuse rise. The chance that you're going to abuse a spouse or a child increase. These are all downstream effects, not of COVID, but of lockdown measures in an attempt, and as we can see, in a vain attempt to limit the spread of a virus. You cannot limit the spread of a virus. We're punching blind. Viruses have been around for millennia, since the dawn of human existence, and we've never been able to completely eliminate them. We never will. This is the first time we've ever tried, and that was because we were told that this virus in Canada, just using the Canadian context, that the Imperial College of London said was going to kill in the first year 200,000 Canadians. If we locked down, they said it would only be 100,000. They also said that we were going to be lined up 10 deep, actually 8 deep, to be put onto a ventilator in an ICU bed. It was horrific. And that was science. And science, unlike this, science was wrong. This has been thrown away because scientists know better. So they're heaping pain, misery, and devastation in Ontario, hundreds of thousands, in Canada, millions, globally, hundreds of millions of people. Now, just using the Canadian context again, we're at somewhere 14,000, 15,000 deaths. Right? People go lose their minds. They say, oh my God, do you know how many people have died of this? Yes, I do. It's on you can just turn on the news. Just look at a newspaper. It's reported every day. The province has a COVID portal page. You can go there and see exactly how many cases were identified, how many new deaths, what the cumulative total death is. As I say, we're somewhere in Canada, 14 to 15,000. I'm not going to check the exact number. It changes every day. But here's the thing. In Canada, people do die. We die at a rate annually in Canada. The numbers that I saw, but I'm seeing conflicting numbers from different sources, but somewhere 290-ish thousand people die. About 800 people a day die of all manner of things. Now, what happens is if someone dies with a positive COVID test, they're added to the COVID numbers. That's as per Toronto Public Health. That's the way they're recording it. They want to see, how fast this thing is spreading, how far it's spreading. So anyone who dies with a positive COVID test, another COVID death. CBS News reported out of Denver. This is out of the United States. They're doing the same thing. CBS News reported that in Denver, the coroner was complaining that 2 victims of gunshot wounds who died because they had a positive COVID test had to be included with COVID numbers. This skews the numbers. The CDC was apologetic, which is a different word. Apologetic doesn't mean saying sorry. At its core, apologetic means to defend. They were apologetic, defensive of their position, and saying, it's necessary to properly measure the spread and the impact of COVID. So anyone dying with a positive COVID test on record, count it up. It's another COVID death, which only serves to drive the fear that people have of this virus, a virus with a better than a 99.5% recovery rate population-wide. I mean, my little guy, God bless, thank you, is going back to school on Monday. Am I worried? Yeah, I'm always worried. I'm a dad. Parents worry. You want to eliminate worry from this world? Good luck. There are all kinds of bad things that happen in this world. I'd suggest you go into here. Can't pick it up now. Job, pick up the book of Job. Job had his life destroyed. Everything he loved and cared about was taken away from him. And when he complained to God, God said, were you here at the creation when I laid the foundations of the earth? We think we can make things better, and we end up making it worse. That's what we've done with these lockdown measures. And they have to stop. The damage being done is far greater. There are churches now starting to open, and God bless them. And as soon as a church close to me, I'm not driving all the way to Aylmer, I'm not driving all the way to Waterloo. It's a little far in the winter when snowstorms can kick up. But if somewhere within an hour or so of me, Aylmer, I checked it out, over a 3-hour drive. Waterloo would be over 2 hours. It's too far. But if something close to me opens, I'll go support them, support myself. I like to be in communion with God. I like to be in relationship with God. Anyway, no one's posted anything. I've only had one person watching. Goodness knows that's probably a YouTube owned by Google bot with an algorithm to see if I say anything that's anti-mask or something like that. I'm not. I am anti-mask. show you my mask. This is the mask that I wear. It's called a mingle mask. Covers the nose, covers the chin. That's what the requirements say. You like science? Science has told us that SARS-CoV-2 is involved. Now, we've all seen painters wearing their masks with the double respirator, goggles over the eyes, and it seals, makes a complete seal around the nose and mouth. You need a tight seal. Can't have any air getting in and out. And paint droplets are huge. Aerosols are so tiny, they'll go right through a lot of the masks being worn now, and they'll certainly go in and around them. You know, here I'm going to get another mask that I have. Here she be. These are the ones you see a lot of people wearing now. These are look like the mask your hygienist or your dentist might wear. Now, it's got a pinch thing here. I can stick a finger right in there without, you know, and you know, there's big gaps on the side, on each side, and you think this is going to keep out an aerosol? Aerosols are so tiny, they hang in the air for hours. They can get into ventilation systems, and we think this is going to keep us safe. Now, do I believe that my faith in God, my relationship with Jesus Christ, is going to keep me safe? That I don't need this mask because Jesus is going to keep me from getting COVID? I don't believe that for a second. Christianity, being in relationship with Christ, does not make one impervious. If you read the Bible, the apostles certainly didn't fare well. Stoned, hung upside down. Their faith didn't, it's not about this life. Everyone on this planet has a terminal illness, and it's called life. And the mortality rate is 100%. So I know I'm going to die at some point. When? The later, the better, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's another little biblical truth. Worrying will not add one single day to my life. So if you get a chance, get into this book. You know, it'll make these times a lot easier. Definitely. And I'll leave you with that. God bless. And be safe. Let's go to end stream. Bye, everyone.